So good morning all this audience here in INSS and those of you who are watching us on YouTube. The conference has been transmitted and I'm very happy to open this very important conference, 50 years to the war of Yom Kippur. So thank you so much again for our partners, those who are here in the INSS and the Strategic Department, and thank you, General, and all the present here, and the Division Department and the Historical Division that are part of this very important endeavor. 50 years of that war is a shocking event for many. It forces us to cope and handle for many years with many of our demons, with the harshest trauma that the State of Israel experienced since its creation. So it's not just the loss of human life of so many that fell in this battle. I want to remind you actually that during the War of Independence, much more victims fell, and in the War of Six-Day War, the glorious Six-Day War, we lost many, and when you calculate that per day, in fact, there's not much difference in the number of victims, and that's not just that, though. It's not just the number of the fallen, but it's the tremendous national trauma that derives from this horrible sense of a failure, of a catastrophe that should not have happened, because it was a sin of vanity, the hubris. And that's what exactly was so heavy on our shoulders until today, the hubris. Vanity is usually an individual sin. Arrogance, hubris is individual sin, but also the nation, the collective, can fall victim to hubris, and that is dangerous. It seems that during 50 years that went by since then, we had a chance of learning all the lessons, operational preparedness, the reconnaissance, prevention of various routings of concepts and etc. And we'll definitely talk about that during this conference, but the lessons about the changes that were implemented after the war, after all the debriefings. By the way, this particular institute was created as a result of those particular lessons. General Aryeh Yariv, who you probably all remember as the harbinger of wisdom after the Yom Kippur War, he told himself, well, we cannot actually, again in the state of Israel, ever experience such an oversight, such as conceptual failure, and we will create a professional military entity that will not be within the system, but will be connected to the system and will know how to challenge those concepts of the system. And up today, we are here, and we are mostly for that reason. That's why we're present. By the very fact, the very thinking that all those lessons were learned already, he was sucked into this lack of attention again. This is not just we have this need to learn, but it's very important that each generation has to see itself as the one that is, we have so many different needs to be again, but this complacence that we were kind of tainted with, that's what we have to completely remember all the time. Each generation has to be on the eve of that war, everything that came before. It's not an academic matter of categorizing different lessons into different groups, but internalization of different ramifications and the change of behavior as a result of it. So this conference is much more than just lesson in history or facing the future. It has to lead us to understand that there is no learning or there is no internalization that is constant and perpetual. It's a process that is required to be performed all the time, every time in you. You cannot internalize anything and then carry on. We'll hear so many different voices that create some kind of parallel between the days of then and days of today in the light of unprecedented internal crisis that we experience here. Obviously, we are facing an existential threat, though not from the outside this time, but from within. Some will say, what are you talking about? There's no element of surprise here, because we talk about that every day and all the time. The question is not just whether you alert to the existence of the emerging threat and there is no surprise, but whether the exposure to facts and to the existence of such a threat, does it change at the end of the day your behavior? And the answer is, in fact, this is no. And whether the state can respond to the warnings properly, the writing is on the wall. And it's not just a surprise, but we are so much embedded into the denial, into all those different stations and positions, so we fail to take off and to position ourselves whether this challenge. So the very fact that during that war we knew how to pull ourselves together and to change the path of war, and leaders emerged that knew how to lead this dramatic change that turned this war from a failure, most hard one in the beginning, into a glorious victory with all the victims that we had to pay for this victory, though. I'm absolutely sure that we do have it as an Israeli society. We still have it, and we can do that this time as well. And thank you so much.